And this is where most beginners get lost, the signal flow. So every sound in Pro Tools follows a path in a journey from the audio, let's say my microphone, that is the in, where you've decided, into the inserts, to the sends, to the out, whereby the out is controlled by the fader. For example, we've seen. So in this case, the sound from the mixer, let's say from the edit window, if it's the guitar, let's say the piano, this one. So that piano and the mixer over here. So over here I can decide to, let me do just an effect for purposes of demonstration. I'm going to load up an EQ, manipulate the sound. Okay, so meaning the signal has passed through this insert, and that's why you can hear the effect taking place. So let me bypass it. You click command click, okay, command click or Windows click. You can right click, bypass, right click, make active, inactive, bypass. So we've said the sound goes through the inserts where you shape the sound through EQ. I've shown you an idea and compression and all that. Then it goes to the send. Okay, now let's see how the send operates. So I'll click on this. Then you have to create the send first before you even send it out. So how do I create a send? Shift Command N for new. Then you make it a stereo or a mono, depending on what you want. This is an auxiliary input at this point, an auxiliary in, because we want to create a send. And then this aux, we name it, let's say reverb, for example. And then you can see it has been created immediately after the piano. Okay, so this is my send now. I have to assign the input and the output. So I'll click on here, create a bus, okay, because I want to create this auxiliary in out. Remember we talked about the input and the output. So I'll come over here and say bus, say 1, 2, and then on this we'll keep it virtual for now. So 1, 2. Then on this guy, send, I'll come on bus and say send it to number 1, 2, like that. And then you can see over here there's this fader that has come up. So this fader is what will send my signal to the reverb. But now the reverb has some inserts and sends also. So I'll create the insert over here. I'll engage my reverb. So let's say let me just load up a reverb, reverb in this case. Then I'll send my signal. You can hear that. So I'll send that signal to the reverb. Then I can control how much of the reverb do I want using this fader. Okay, do I want a lot or do I want just balance? But at the end of the day, you just balance it to satisfaction, to just give it a natural room. So as of now, you can see the piano has moved from the audio into the EQ, then from the EQ into the send. The send, the signal has been rerouted into the reverb send, and that's why we have 1, 2 over here as our input. And then if you click on this send, you will see this fader where you engage or disengage and decide how much of the reverb do I want into my piano. Then after that, it goes to your output and then your speakers and headphones and all that. if you don't understand this path, you will misplace plugins, lose clarity, and your mix will feel messy at the end of the day. Inserts versus send. This is insert and send, meaning insert affects the original signal direct, as we've seen over here. So the insert affects this original signal directly. Then the sound goes through this plugin, and as you can see, the plugin has the in and the output. So I can also control how the input and the output is operating within my plugin at the end of the day. Okay, so there's that. So within this plugin, there's the in and the out. Hence, the insert affects the original sound directly. Then the sound goes through the plugin. Then the send creates a copy of the signal. Okay, it creates a copy of the signal whereby it goes somewhere else. Like for example, over here, this send has created some copy which is going to the reverb, but again another signal is passing through into the fader. That's why when I increase the fader, you can hear the effect. But again, this control, I can switch off the path, this other path. So I can switch the going off to the reverb and leave it just to flow. But if I engage this, I'm sending some amount of that signal into that other signal that I've created, hence the auxiliary send. Okay, so think of it like this. Insert, you change your voice directly. Send, you are in a room and the room adds echo. Okay, so that's how the inserts and sends operate. Okay, insert shape the sound, send create a space. Okay, that's how you can think of it. Insert shape the sound, send create a space. So where does the signal go when you send it? It goes to something called a bus. Okay, and a bus is simply a signal pathway that allows multiple sounds to be routed to one place. For example, you can send all your vocals into one reverb track, and in this case I can send, for example, I have an instrumental over here and these four guys. I can decide to send all these guys into one space. So I'll just copy this bus, move it into this send, move it into that send. How do you copy? Option, click, drag. Option on your keyboard, click, drag. Option, click, drag. That's how you copy it. Okay. I can mute the send just to do A and B like that. So everything has been sent to that. So why do you send everything into one reverb? Because you want to save your CPU, okay, and create some cohesion in your mix at the end of the day. So this is how professionals keep the mixes clean. Okay, so this is where things get powerful. How? Sub-mixing. You create groups, like let's say all drums move to one bass, all vocals into one bass, all instrument into one bass or a send. So a bass is simply a signal pathway that allows you to combine multiple sound and send them into one place. So for example, how do I do this? So let me select all these guys. Let me just identify all the guitars. So this song has different guitars. I can sort them up. 1, 2, 3. There are 3 guitars. And then I'll come over here, the output now. I'll change the out click on bass. See my first bass, I've used it and it's stereo. And this bass, you can see there's 1, 2. So I will not, already they are combined over here into stereo. I'll go to bass 3, 4. Click on 3, 4. Then again, remember our formula, Shift Command N. This is a stereo. Then an auxiliary, we call this guitars. Okay, create. So it has created this bass auxiliary send of guitars. If I let me try and send all the guitars. Guitar send bass 3, 4. Guitar bass 3, 4. Like that. Let me mute the reverb bass. Now there's no signal. Reason being, I have sent this to 3, 4, but I have not activated the input. So there's no channel that is receiving this 3, 4, 3, 4, 3, 4. I have to route it back to the mixer again. How? I have created an auxiliary. Then on this I/O, I have to create the guitar out to be out virtual, then the in to be 3, 4. Then play. Now you will be able to hear the guitars. And then now this bunch controls all the guitars now. Okay, so I'm able to control all the guitars at once. Let me get the reverb. Okay, then I can shape them further. Let's say I want another EQ over here. Then something like that. Depending on what you want to achieve. So that is an EQ. We will move to the EQ way later. So bypass. So I've given them a tone. So basically that's how it works. That's called the submixing. And you can do this to all drums, all guitars. So once you understand the mixer and once you understand routing, everything becomes seamless. Okay, you start enjoying mixing,